Okay. The system of Reiki is a spiritual, I can't read that. It's a Japanese spiritual practice from the early 1900s. That is what basically sums it up. You will find lots of differences today in Reiki. But originally everything comes from that spiritual practice which was done in those days. I know the history sometimes might sound boring to some people, especially if you're very right-brained, what do you need to know this history? Because I would like to train you up to the point where you can train others. If you don't progress to that, it's fine. Some people only do level 1, some do level 2, some 3, and some become teachers. Okay. Okay, so, you ready? Interesting yet? Just say yes, please. Just say yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Reiki, just to give you an idea, Rei means universal or spiritual. What's that? Sacred and soul. Where Ki is the Japanese for the Chinese that says Qi. You've heard of Qi, Tai Chi, Qigong, or you can, but it's not really the same thing, but you can translate it into what the yogis use as the word prana. Reiki is essentially, Ki is essentially life force energy. You all have Ki, you all have Qi. That is the energy that keeps you alive. If the Qi leaves you, you die. We have different forms of energy. We have physical energy in the food that we eat. We have energy in our relationship to Source. If I say Source, it means God, universe, Jesus, Allah, whatever you understand as Source. Okay, so this is why do I call him God? Why Source? Because and Shekina, you always say higher power. Thank you. You see, I know your journeys. Although, because Reiki is a spiritual practice, you need to understand that there's a spiritual facet to energy work. But there's also the natural or the physical. And that combines into what we call Ki or heart energy. We'll get to that. Let's back to that. We won't use this for much long, but I thought it would be nice so that we can actually see where it comes from. There's our kanji. Okay, so kanji is the name of the ancient. Oh yeah, that's what I forgot. So, in the time when Usui walked the earth, Japan used the same symbols as China. Today, they don't use kanji anymore, they use katakana, which is like a phonetic script. So you'll have a letter that says Chi, Ming, Shen, Wan, a letter for a sound. But what gets lost in that is the meaning of what it was actually supposed to mean. Our first part, which is Rei, now that little part there means heaven. Then you've got the veil between heaven and earth, cloud, raindrops, a choir of angels, heaven, you see heaven, heaven. Remember they wrote with these big brushes. So it's not a pen, so you have a brush, that's why it looks like, but you can see the brush strokes, right? Okay, heaven, and then that is two people dancing upon the earth. Now if you want to translate it as as it is written there, Ray means as the angels sing in the heavens, and the people dance upon the earth. The veil between heaven and earth is torn, and the rain, or the blessing, or the energy, or the power rains down on earth. That's freaking beautiful. As we dance, and the angels, or please remember, if I say something you don't believe, then translate it into what you believe. But I'm saying as what Usui taught it. Right. So as we dance, or practice, or royu method, or do, which means do, and the angels sing, the choir, the veil gets torn and the energy or the blessings from source or God rains down on the earth. Beautiful. Our next part is ki, or chi, or life force energy. Specifically meaning spiritual or divine energy. It's not just energy. So we're talking about divine and divine. Like a double negative in Afrikaans, jy sal dit nie doen nie. Yeah. So it's as if they are emphasizing it. Right. So that is a pot cooking rice. That's grains of rice, a cooking pot, and steam. So you have a pot and it's cooking rice, and the steam is, it's boiling and it's doing. So as the blessing or the energy from God gets activated, the energy is released. That's what the word Reiki, or just the character for Reiki, means. If you look at, just for interesting sake, that is ancient. I can't remember how long ago in China. It's about 6,000 years ago, plus minus, when they started using the ki or the chi symbol. If you take rice and you translate it as carbohydrate or sugar or energy, and you apply heat, because that is specifically steam produced, from the rays of the sun. So if you apply energy to rice or to a carbohydrate, what happens? So one glucose molecule plus 6 water molecules, remember there's a steam, equals 666 kilojoules of energy plus 6 carbon dioxide molecules. That is science today found out that that's actually what's happening. The glucose releases 666, or is it 686? But anyways, let's make it 666, and then the guys watching this will go, ooh, these guys are with the Antichrist. But so you've got your one glucose molecule that reacts with 6 water molecules that releases carbon dioxide and 666 kilojoules of energy, one molecule. So it's interesting to see that thousands of years ago, your energy practitioners already understood modern day science. That's where you go, wow. Seems like we need some more. Do you need coffee? How was the energy fast? We don't talk about it. Okay, good. And then that eventually translates as spiritually guided life force energy. And you can look into the kanji and even find more little pearls of wisdom. But we'll stay there. Okay. Ancient principles. Okay. Mikao Usui, or Usui Sensei, was born 18 August 1865. So it's 15 August 1865. So we go, and myself, we actually share the same star sign. Interesting. And now, when is your birthday? Whose birthday is close to that?
Mine.
Yours.
August
26. Okay. Now, just to give you a little background, what happened in Japan at that stage, it was called the Meiji Restoration. Now, if you look in history, you will find that they speak about the Ming Emperor and the São Emperor, and this one built the wall in China, and that one built that and that. So during Usui's lifetime, the Emperor Meiji was the Emperor of Japan. Prior to Meiji, Japan was open. But to give you an idea, Japan's original spiritual or religion at that stage was Shintoism. So they opened the gates prior, and Buddhism from India, and mostly Buddhism originates from India, but Buddhism from mainland China and also from Mongolia, Tibet, came into Japan. So the original religion was Shintoism, and then Buddhism came in, and like Taoism, most of these isms are very closely related to one another. The philosophies are much the same. Okay. Then Emperor Meiji closed the gates, and also there were a big Christian influence also in Japan prior to Emperor Meiji. What he did is he closed the borders of Japan and declared any religion other than Shintoism or Buddhism invalid and illegal. So they closed the borders, and no influence from the outside world came into Japan. Later on, he opened the borders again, and which happened more or less just after World War II, when the borders opened again, and then we had an influence of a lot of other practices, religious practices. Now, to give you an idea, Usui Mikao was from the family where the samurais came from. There are two warrior clans in Japan. There's the samurai and the ninja. He was a trained samurai warrior, because that is his family's legacy. When Emperor Meiji closed the gates, he also shut down the samurai. So no more samurai.
Yeah, but were they not a threat to the emperor?
They were a threat because the samurai were loyal to the shogun, and that became a threat to the emperor, and then they stopped. Now, to give you an idea, the samurai, one of the martial arts that the samurai practiced, remember they practiced multiple, it's not, they don't just do karate, or they practice a lot of things. Now, one of the martial arts that the samurai practiced was Aikijitsu, where today we have Aikido and we have Jiu-Jitsu. So originally Aikijitsu was one of the martial arts, and just to give you an idea, he was a Aikijitsu sensei. He had the highest, they didn't work with belts like today, yellow belt and black belt, and he was the highest level of an Aikijitsu trainer. Remember the influence from martial arts, okay? The influence from this spiritual practice. Then Tendai Buddhism. Now Tendai means mountain in Japan, and the Tendai Buddhists got a lot of their influence from the Tendai esoteric practice. what these guys would do is they would go and train in the mountains. You guys know a mountain is just something else. They would go meditate in the mountains, not in the valleys. You have valley Buddhists and you have Tendai Buddhists. Now, Buddhism in Japan is so much different than other Buddhisms. Just to give you an idea, you know. It's sort of unique because it had the influence of the Tendai, and it had an influence of Shintoism, and also, where's that? Shugendu. Now, Shugendu is an esoteric practice. Shugendu is like the new age of Buddhism. So you will have you get the picture. So you'll have Buddhism, which is your normal practice of self-empowerment and meditation in that, and then you have the Tendai, the Shugendus, who had an influence from shamanism and Taoism. Shamans, you know what is a shaman? If you've done ayahuasca, you know what is a shaman. If you know me, you know what is a shaman. What else? If you know, you get the point. Okay. Just say yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. What else there? And then the New Sects movement. Now, Usui, in his later years, was part of what they called the New Sects. Did you miss six? Some people did miss it. Okay, so now, New Sect movement was when the major emperor opened up again, then because there were Christians in Japan at that stage, but they were persecuted, so they went way undercover. All other religions also, they either left or they went underground. So when the Meiji Restoration took place, all the other religions, specifically your Tendai, not Tendai Buddhism, but the Tendai, the Shingon, Zen, you know Zen, Yoroshu, Shinto and Christianity formed what they called the New Sects movement. Now I've got one, it's called the Spiritual Friends. It's a WhatsApp group with people from all sorts of mindsets, religions, philosophies, sharing with one another. So if you spend, let's say, Kobus, you're a Muslim and I'm a Buddhist, if you spend 10 years with me, believe me, some of my Buddhism would have rubbed onto you. And also some of your Islam would rub off on me. So all these influences did influence Usui. He was a Tendai priest, a lay priest, which means that in the monasteries, he didn't sit in the monastery and meditate for 30 years. He went to the monastery, taught, and then went home again. So he was a leke prediker. Alright, so he was a lay priest, not a lazy priest, but a lay priest. He studied, what we know is he studied all those except the New Sects movement. But you can just imagine if he had these friends, he would have been sort of curious about what do you believe, and okay, that makes sense. That doesn't make sense, but you. Okay, questions? No questions? Okay. Also, he was a poet. In Japan, poetry is called waka. The Meiji Emperor was a poet himself. He wrote a lot of poems that is today part of Reiki. One of them, I actually learned how to pronounce it. It's not all beautiful. But the poems were to some, the idea of poetry in Japan was to meditate upon, and not just to make somebody fall in love with you. It was more a meditative poetry. Okay, so here comes the Reiki story. So Sui Mikao went to Karamayama. Now Karamayama, or if you search on Google, it's called Mount Kurama. And who of you know there's other mountains? You see the mountain theme, the whole thing is full of mountains. Okay, so Karamayama or Mount Kurama is a 10-day holy place, sacred place. You had to go there and meditate for either 3 days or 7 days. Does that sound familiar? Or 21 days. It's going to sound familiar. Thank you. I'm bumping them up. They are going to do their 21 days after this training, not after Reiki 2. Because I'm serious about getting this word out and people to raise light workers into this world. Not just for yourself. The Bible says, first Jerusalem, then Judea, then Samaria, then the ends of the world. So you always, which means start with yourself, then to your neighbor, then to your country, and then to the world. That's how enlightenment works. One thing about meditating upon Mount Kuramayama is that you do it without food or water. So Usui went probably more than we know, but he did go to Mount Kurama to meditate there for 21 days. So what happens, you go up the mountain and then you take stones. Let's say you are going for 3 days, then you will take 3 stones. If you go for 21, and there's another one as well, which is the 3-month one. Now that's next level. My son always, in games you've got sandbox mode and normal and extreme and then God mode, So if you can go 3 months without food and water, I think you are enlightened. I really believe that you have started to understand energy. So he went up the mountain for 21 days to go meditate. Without food, without water. If we have time, I will show you what Kuramayama looks like. It looks like the same, you have never seen it, no. It's beautiful. I've put that on my bucket list. I want to go there one day. Because that is where Reiki was birthed. Okay, let me just give you a story. Now you probably heard this while checking myself out, you checked out Reiki. Where does Reiki come from? Probably, or you just believe me. Okay. The legend. There's a legend and then there's the truth. The legend says Usui was a teacher at a university in Kyoto, Japan. And one of his students asked him, how is it possible that Jesus could heal people by laying on of hands? And as Usui, a man of honor and of his word, couldn't answer the student, he went on a quest. And he traveled the whole world through looking at Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, all the isms that you can think of, and then eventually couldn't figure out how did Jesus heal people. The story in India is told that they asked him how did Buddha heal people. But it's waka, it's called poetry. So he couldn't find out how this worked, and then he eventually went onto the mountain to fast for 21 days, and on day 20, just quickly, sorry, my mind is going everywhere. Each day that you finish with meditation, you throw a stone in a pond, saying, okay, I've got 5 days left, 4 days. So on day 21, the legend says that out of the distance came a bright light, purple, and hit him on the forehead, and the Reiki method was revealed to him, the symbols, the hand positions and everything. He went down from the mountain, stubbed his toe against, you will see why you can stub your toe on that mountain. It's just obvious. But anyway, still, legend. Stubbed his toe and he actually, his toenail got ripped off. Ouch. Immediately he placed his hands on the toenail and healed it, and much to his surprise. Then he went down to the tavern at the bottom of Mount of Kuramayama, and there was the legend says, the farmer's granddaughter. She was a waitress, and she served him, and he just ate a whole bowl of food, which is impossible if you fasted for 21 days. My longest that I've ever fasted was 7 days, and I just, you just smell food, and you get sick. You just don't want to eat anymore. Anyway, so he ate the bowl of food, and he was energized. Then he saw that the lady that helped him, his waitress, she had a bandage around her head, and she had a MRSA abscess. And he asked, "Can I put my hand on you?" And he put his hand on her, and the toothache was gone, and she was immediately healed of the abscess. He went to the monastery where his friend, the abbot of the Buddhist monastery was, who was sick, was bedridden with arthritis. And you will know if you can't get out of bed from joint pain. And Usui put his hands on him and immediately healed the abbot. It's a beautiful story. None of it is true, but it's beautiful. No. Okay, why do I say none of it is true? Japan is one of those countries that have an oral tradition. They do not write things down. If something happened to me, I will tell my son, and he will tell his son, and then you know what happens, stories get added on too. So there's no record of what Usui did. We know he went on the mountain because there's records of that. We know here and there are bits and pieces of information which gets revealed on a daily basis. Okay, so when he did that, he started the Gakkai, which is association in 1922. 1923, there was a massive earthquake in Kyoto. You know there, what's that mountain in Kyoto? Fukushima. That is a nuclear reactor. Anyway, you know the picture of the mountain in Japan. So there was a massive earthquake, and thousands of people got injured, and he would do Reiki as following. Put his one foot on one on the other one hand, and look at the fifth person, and heal them like that. The legend says that the emperor gave him a special title because of the thousands of people that he healed. There's no record about that, but it's possible. It's a beautiful story. Right. What we know is that Usui lived, that he did heal a lot of people because a lot of them are still alive today. And that's weird. Because he died in 1923, and that's weird.
No, 26.
He died in 1926. So in the time, since 1922 when he started healing people, up to 1926 when he died of a stroke, according to legend. We don't know really how he died, which just tells you, even if you're the most powerful healer,
It's your time, it's your time.
and it's your time, number one, yeah?
So don't you think he gave so much of his life force that actually died of that? Because it's 41, that's like very young.
He was very young when he died. So, and that is, thank you, Clovis. What happens is, because Reiki is not you, it comes from source. But we tend to give from our energy to people. That's why you need to recharge the whole time. And maybe, he did so much to other people that he forgot to look after himself. Because a stroke means, either had high blood pressure or stress, ate too much salt or didn't drink enough water. But we know he was a martial artist, so he wasn't unfit. And he was very spiritually minded, but something eventually, when it's your time, it's your time. He just died very young. He trained a lady called Suzuki-san. Suzuki-san is not a Kawasaki. Anyway, so Suzuki-san, I think, died about 2 years ago. So it's not thousands of years ago. It happened around about 100, where's my maths? Less than 100 years ago. Okay. Just to give you an idea also, Reiki is not something that comes from Usui. Reiki is everywhere. But Usui found through his studies and his meditation how to use the energy. Does that make sense? Okay. We know Usui trained more than 2,000 level 1s, what you are doing. I'm now 28. So, still got a way to go. No. Anyway, but he trained 21 Shenpiden. Shenpiden is level 3 or master practitioners. We'll speak about the master thing now, so I'll use the word now, I won't use it later. But he trained 21 people that could go on and teach others. Dr. Hayashi Chijuru Sensei. Now, Dr. Hayashi, born 1880 in Tokyo, he was a retired naval commander, meaning commandeer, yeah, a commander in the Navy, and he was also a medical doctor. So he was not the ship's doctor, he was the ship's captain, you know, these battleships, but he was also a medical doctor. So he had a fascination with, number one, traditional Japanese medical practices, but he also studied Western allopathic. So he studied homeopathic, but also allopathic, you know, so Western medicine and also Eastern medicine. He studied 1925 under Usui, became a Shenpiden. Now, just to give you an interesting idea, we don't have time in our modern day society. That's why I keep on bugging you after this. You're not going to get rid of me. Sorry. But in those days, you had an apprenticeship. So you would learn from, let's say, me, and then you will, if you're good, I will invite you into my house. And then you will live with me until I think that you're ready. You become a son or a daughter in your sensei's house. That was normally about 3 years. So you stopped everything else that you did and you would study under your sensei. Learning, observing. Well, we have jobs, unfortunately. Okay, just to give an idea, Usui, spiritual practice, he did the meditation, the self-healing, all these things. Hayashi, because of his medical background, brought in the medical side. How are you feeling? Okay, now I've got a headache. Okay, I've got a hand position for that. Today we've got an app for that, but he had a hand position for that. So he had knowledge of the energetic system, the meridians, how medicine works, and he applied Reiki to his trade. That's where all the medical parts of Reiki today actually originated from Hayashi. He compiled what we call the medical Reiki guide. I've got it. You know, later on, if you want it, I will share it with you. How to, you know, if you've got back pain, how do you heal that? If you've got that pain, how do you heal that? So he went into specifics. Details, yes. Because he's the doctor. I mean, if you look at the Bible, the 4 Gospels, which one is the most detailed? Luke, written by a doctor. Now there's, he helped set up the first Reiki clinic outside of Japan. Usui opened a clinic, just for interesting sake. Hayashi had a medical clinic which he converted into a Reiki clinic. So he didn't, later on, he didn't even practice medicine at all, he just practiced Reiki. And people from all over the world flocked to him. We know that he trained between 13 and 17, remember, they didn't write things down. Master practitioners, and he died in 1940, ritual seppuku. You know what is ritual seppuku?
himself.
Killed himself. The reason being,
Second World War.
yes, can you see the date? He was commanded, he was commanded to return to the Navy to join the Second World War. And he said, my belief is life, not death. So he actually killed himself with a ceremonial, you've got your katana and then the smaller one and then the dagger. So you put the dagger in and then you twist it and then you die. That's how much, sometimes I cry a lot. If you want to cry, you're welcome. If you want to fart, it happens, okay? It's got to happen. Anyway, so that's how much he believed in Reiki. He made the ultimate sacrifice. He did it actually because this woman she lived in Hawaii, Hawaii Takata. Now, Hawaii Takata was born in Hawaii, although from Japanese descent. Her parents was from Japan. But have you seen Harry Potter? What's Hermione? No, Ron. Who's the half-blood?
It's not mine.
Hermione.
Yeah.
So she was a half-blood in the Japanese tradition because she wasn't born in Japan. Although her parents was Japanese, she was like an outcasted. They've got a name for that. Born 24 December, she had a tumor, a gallstone, appendicitis, and asthma.
Yes.
She was busy dying in hospital, and they were prepping her in Hawaii to go for appendicitis, and then that night, according to her, she had a visitation from an angel that said, do not do the surgery, go to Japan and find Hayashi. So, if it happened, I don't know, but it's a beautiful story, right? So she told the doctors, leave me alone, and she left to go to Japan. She went to visit Hayashi's clinic for treatment, and in 1936, she started her first training, Shoden, which means, you've seen us, I spoke about Shoden, which means entry. So she did a Reiki 1 in 1936. She did a 1-year apprenticeship with Hayashi. Now, let me just give you, we don't subscribe to Takata's teachings, but if it weren't for her, you would not be sitting here. I will tell you now why we don't, you can read there, but anyway. So, she lived with Hayashi, which was not, a woman was second-rate citizens. The men were, we're talking about the East, if you look in the Arab world and in China, that the women are there or pregnant in the kitchen, right? And she actually nagged Hayashi and nagged him. She actually stayed with him in a total of something, 3 years. But she lived with him in his house, and he taught her in detail what he learned from Usui and what he added. Okay. Hayashi went to Japan to help her to open a Reiki clinic in Hawaii. She trained 22 master practitioners. She's the reason why you have Reiki in the West. Because what she did, she brought the Christian connection into Reiki and made it so that the Western world could understand it. Because remember what happened when she started teaching is that it was end of World War II because of Pearl Harbor. There was a big anti-Japanese sentiment. Japanese were arrested one by one and exported, deported. People didn't want to hear anything of Japan because they shot America in the back while America was busy, fighting with the Allied troops, fighting Germany. They got hit in the back by the Japanese. So there was a very big anti-Japanese sentiment to that. So what did she do? she brought Christianity into Reiki, telling people Sui was a Christian pastor. Which she never was, but it worked. Right. What did she do? She charged $10,000 for you to do your master training. Not level 1, then level 2, then master's 10. So, because her idea was, because Reiki is so sacred, and because only a select few people want to become master practitioners, you need to pay up. And the whole money exchange or energy exchange came in there. Before that, people got Reiki for free. In the old days, money was not an issue like that. Today, we need to pay water and electricity. We need to pay rent. We need to buy petrol, food. You understand? Right. She did not allow taking notes. Hello. She didn't allow to record anything. Everything had to be memorized. You would write an exam where the symbols, you had to draw the symbols, Reiki symbols. I'll speak about it later on. If you made a mistake, you would have to burn that paper and start over. She would make you draw the symbols, do the hand positions over and over again. She was like a control freak. Now also, one of my students, is a Buddhist, and she told me women today in Buddhism is still there. You get Buddhism sects where women are allowed in, but mostly, so for her to actually be recognized into a man's world, and that's, she was really a phenomenal woman. And that's why we honor her. Not just because she's in our lineage, which I'll also tell you about, but because she was so charismatic, phenomenal. She just went through like a bull in a china shop and she did things. Right. She was the first one to institute what they call the Office of the Grand Master. If you hear somebody tell you or advertise on Facebook or whatever that they are a Reiki Grand Master, there is no such thing. Okay. You can actually, yeah. Okay. And she died in 1980.
It's strange the ages.
How they increase.
Yeah,
How they increase.
yeah, 61,
So,
60 and 80.
yeah. So 65 to 26. What did we say? 41? No.
No, that's 61.
Yeah. 65 to 26. 61. No. Okay. Then 1880 to 40. He would have lived longer, but
He ended it.
he ended it. Yeah. The kind
That's
of.
exactly 60, so this is exactly 8. This is 80.
So she, and people who know Takata say that when you saw her, you would say she's about 60 years old. She looked, this picture, let me just, so that you can see that picture, can you just switch it off for a second. That was taken just before her death,
Yeah.
80 years old. And the photo is cropped, but if you look at the full photo, you will see she actually had a figure.
Yeah.
She had like a woman figure, Okay, if I can call it that way. No, but she was sexy for her age, Interesting, no?
Was bigger.
Are you fine like this?
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to run.
Yes, I'm going to put you in there.
Ja, zo gaan we zo kijken met de breed.
Ja.
Ek is nog graag vandag.
Net wat ek vir die kode gee van.
Maar dan moet jy, gaan jy ry?
Weet jy, ek maak hierdie somme, dis ook 'n blad was vir
Weet jy?
Dis somme
Klaar,
aflaai, dis
klaar.
'n bietjie sy en sy toe.
Okay.
Ek sal hulle dalk net nou met oplaai. So nou.